Everybody, there's a video about. This is not one of my normal videos, so if you searched for this video and found it, this is completely different than what's on my normal channel. Usually I'm talking about like Rolls-Royce cars or custom movie cars and things, but I am a bit of a tinkerer and a fixer-upperer. And something that has really chapped my butt for a long time is how the appliance manufacturers purposefully build pieces of crap. You know, the air conditioner that was in this garage for over 30 years worked fine. And the reason the old air conditioners worked for so long is because parts were made out of metal and not plastic, and they used stainless steel hardware that wouldn't rust. But the parts that would fail is they would use, an old style motor, and eventually the brushes would wear out and the bearings would wear out. I mean, if a fan has been running for 20, 30 years, it's eventually going to fail. But at least you could service them. The problem was that after 20 or 30 years, you couldn't no longer get those parts any longer. So these manufacturers now are making really, really cheap stuff. And I want to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, what we're looking at here is a brand new LG air conditioner. We've got the case off of it. Now this thing was about 600 bucks, but this is what I want to show you, okay? All of these screws here, these are just regular metal screws. These are the cheapest of screws that you can get, okay? Now what's going to happen in a short period of time is these screws here are all going to rust. All of these screws are going to turn to just powder. They're just going to turn to dust. You won't be able in the future to take these screws out, because what will happen is this will just turn to rust. Your screwdriver will just spin, and you won't be able to take it apart. Now the way this thing works is this shroud, this piece here, this would be able to come apart. You'd be able to loosen the 4 bolts on the motor, and this brushless motor would be able to lift out with the squirrel cage fan on this side and the other fan on this side. It's got one continuous shaft that runs both fans. You've got the squirrel cage fan that's inside there. I don't know if you could see it, that sucks the air through here, which is the cooled air, blows cold air out here. The compressor transfers the freon through there to here, where the hot is here, and this blows the hot out and cools it. It gets cooled, the cycle continues, right? Now here's the failure point on this particular unit. Now this LG shares parts with a whole bunch of other units, so probably if you open your air conditioner, it's going to look just like this, okay? Now, I know there's Halloween props over there. People are going to comment, the devil's sitting over there. There's a Halloween prop that I put in the garage. Okay, see this fan? This fan is just pressed onto this shaft. This is just plastic, okay? Now, in the old days, what they would have done is stamped out a metal fan, welded a metal collar on it, drilled a hole in it, tapped it, put a set screw on it, and it would mount on the shaft. That fan would last forever. Nothing would ever happen to that fan. That fan was never going to break. Your motor might have failed, but the fan was not going to break. Why is that fan breaking? It's because of the energy efficient mode, and I'll explain why that's a problem. You come over here. All right, whoa, this one doesn't even have it. Okay, the capacitor on this thing is so small in this box, they put even smaller capacitor in. I'm going to show you in a second. In the old days, they used to use a great big motor starter capacitor. The motor starter capacitor is there to help start the motor. You know when you first turn it on, you hear that, that's the capacitor magnetizing the motor and getting the motor to run. And it has to turn this shaft and this shaft. It's got weight on it, right? Well, when they replaced those with the brushless motors that are sealed, they start like a drill. When you pull the trigger on a drill and it goes, bzzz. Well, that small capacitor doesn't give a soft enough start to the motor. The motor starts quickly. It jerks. And when it jerks, it's going to crack this fan right here. It's going to crack it, right? And then eventually it's going to spin right off to the shaft. And this is what's happened to almost every single one of these air conditioners that I've ever owned. And let me show you what I'm talking about. And off of my other LG. Now you might be asking me, why did I buy another LG like a moron? Because you really don't have a choice. There's only 2 or 3 air conditioners you can buy. And when you go buy a Kenmore from Sears, which no longer exists, you were buying an LG. When you buy an LG, you're not really buying an LG. Most of these air conditioners are all made with the same parts, just with different names on them. So anyway, this is what happens to that shaft. Look at this thing. This thing is just pressed on, there's no collar. And you can buy this fan replacement for like 20 bucks, but getting it in and getting it out is the really hard part. And what happens is, as this cracks, see how this cracked and split? Now, I tried to JB weld this on, and it worked for like a minute, but that's what happened. Just wallered itself out. And this is going to happen every time. Now, the problem is with the starting of the fan. Okay, out here is my old LG, very much like the new one. Now, here's that capacitor I was going to point at. This one actually has a much bigger capacitor, obviously, than the other one. In the old days, that would be about the size of a soda pop can, right? Now, I want you to see, now we've washed this thing. We just got through washing it. It was covered in crud. But I want you to see how all of the screws have just turned to like mush, right? They've all rusted. Everything's rusted. There's no drain holes here for proper draining. These screws have all rusted. And this thing was incredibly dirty. I mean, we pulled this back and we did a lot of cleaning to it. Now, the air conditioner itself still works perfectly fine. The compressor works, the fan works, the control works. If you could put the fan back on the shaft, it would cool and run perfectly fine, and who knows how long it would live. The problem is because you can't really service it because the screws go to mush, everything rusts out. It's a closed system that can't be maintained, and it's virtually impossible to completely take it apart without destroying it. There's no way to service it. So every 2 to 3 years, you end up replacing your air conditioner. I have replaced these things every I've lived here 10 years, and like clockwork, every 2 years we have to replace these air conditioners at 600 bucks a pop. So there's a couple of things you could do to future-proof your piece of crap air conditioner. Okay, coming back in here looking at this unit. Now this unit is a little bit different than that other one because it's an inverter unit, it's called. It's got some other technology. You see this unit up here, it's using a type of inverter technology, has a much smaller motor. And I mean, is that plastic? What is that? Anyway, this thing is supposed to be about 40% more efficient than the other one. But some things that aren't going to change is it's still going to get dirty. It's still going to get moist and wet in here. And those things just aren't going to change. So whenever you buy a new air conditioner, here's some suggestions from me. Run down and get yourself a box of stainless steel machine screws that are about this, like these, all right? See this little screw, how it's rusted? Look at this screw. Can you see what's going on? Where's the camera? There we go. So now that one actually is in good condition. I mean, I could get it out. Go get yourself a box of 1/2-inch stainless steel machine screws that are like, these are probably number 10s, maybe, right? They're not too big. And go through and replace all the screws that are, because they're all the same screw, right? These are all the same screw. They're not using different screws. All these screws. Replace all of these with stainless steel screws. These down here have little 1/4-inch heads on them. If you were to preventatively do that before you put it away, in a couple of years, you'll be thanking yourself when you need to take this thing apart. Just an idea. Now, secondarily, I'm not sure what all we could do to reinforce this fan, all right? Now you're hearing noise because there's this stuff is in here. Take that out of there. You can see, you can't really see in here, but there's a squirrel cage fan in there. I'm thinking about preventively gooping on some JB Weld around this shaft, because this is so thin, this is going to eventually crack, and it's just going to happen again as this becomes hard and brittle from heat. So these are a couple preventative things that you can do, maybe to preserve this thing from going to crap in the future. Okay, one of the other things I mentioned a minute ago that I told you to hang on for, do not use the energy efficient mode. What the energy efficient mode does is turn the fan off to save you a little bit of electricity. Turns the fan off for a little while, but what it's really doing is it's constantly turning the fan and compressor on and off, on and off. You're going to wear the thing out. How much electricity are you really going to save versus how much are you going to pay for a new air conditioner? I'm willing to bet that theoretically, if you just left the fan running all the time and never turned it off, for the exception of at the end of the summer, you know, here in Texas, we kind of leave it running all the time, except for in the really cold part of the winter. But that would be my suggestion. Do not use the energy efficient mode that turns the fan on and off. Leave it on fan mode on and have it, and then just raise the temperature of the compressor. So instead of setting it at 69 or 72, set it at 75. Leave the fan running and have the compressor go on and off instead. This will make it last much, much, much longer. That's just my personal opinion. The extended warranties are generally a joke. They always rip you off and never pay off. And another thing that I've learned over the years, by the way, if you have the opportunity, buy your air conditioner from Costco if you're a Costco member. Costco will generally take anything back for any reason, for any amount of time. They just will. So if you have the opportunity to do something like that, that's what you should do. I don't necessarily have a 100% fix for this. It's more of a rant video than it is a repair video. But basically, it's just some advice for me, what I've learned. Damn, garage light went off. Sorry. Anyway, this house is 6,000 square feet. I have a 5-ton train unit over there and 6 window air conditioners. And I swear to God, every 2 or 3 years, I go through thousands of dollars replacing all these air conditioners, and I'm sick and tired of it. We installed the new LG dual inverter. Now, it fit inside the exact same enclosure. It's almost the same unit, but they're taking the air in from the sides and underneath rather than from the front to make it prettier. This one is also Wi-Fi enabled. When you first plug it in, it's going to default to the energy saver mode. You want to turn that off. But check this out. I set it to cool. Now, watch the motor. It starts off really, really slow. You can't even hear it. So they fixed the problem. They realized what was going on, and the motor starts off. This is the dual inverter version now. It's using a completely different system to operate. The motor, and I'm gonna have to move out of the way because the fan is gonna be blowing all over. The compressor doesn't come on right away, but oh my God, this thing is quiet. Even when I put it on full high-speed fan, the compressor doesn't come on for about a minute. I'm gonna have to stay over here so that the wind doesn't blow in the microphone. It's already cold. I gotta give kudos to LG for making this new unit, okay? Because it is different. It is definitely different than the one from even 2 years ago. I've only had it for 5 minutes and I'm already slightly impressed with it. We'll see. We will see how long it lasts. Videos live forever. I have videos going back to like 2007 when YouTube first started. I will update this video every 6 months or a year, or if anything changes, if you find this video from other than 2020. And I'll let you know how it's doing. I'm gonna order another fan for the other one, and I'm gonna order an extra fan for this one. We'll see what happens. But you know what? So far, so good. I'm impressed with the way this thing starts and runs so far. We'll see if this new inverter technology works. Quick little PS, little tip. Put your receipt in a baggie and tape it to the inside lid of your air conditioner. You'll thank me later. So, just thought I'd give you a little advice of what I've learned in repairing these. What I'm gonna do with that other one is I'm gonna go ahead and order that other fan for 20 bucks. And what I might do is, since this one has the same one, I'm gonna order 2. I'm gonna order the extra fan. I'm gonna put it up in the cabinet along with the receipt taped to it just in case. because I know I'm going to have to eventually fix it. They just don't build stuff like they used to, folks. Really sucks. Hey, thanks for tuning in and hanging out with me. If this is kind of sort of a one-time video of this kind of thing, if you were searching for this kind of content. For those of you that are subscribers and fans, I hope maybe I helped you out in your life and taught you something. Don't worry, there'll be more Rolls-Royce videos coming soon. You just hang on. I got to get this air conditioner back in because, listen, I got to keep this thing nice and cool in the garage. I don't want to get into a hot car. I like to air condition my Phantom before I get in it. Ah, first world problems. All right, catch you guys later. I got work to do.